This is Inside LAFC, the Max and Vince podcast coming at you live on LAFC's YouTube channel. And you can already tell there's going to be a couple of twists in this because this is not Max Bretos. It's, of course, Dave Denholm. His goal calls are epic. They ring in your head. They live with you forever. The radio voice of LAFC, Dave Denholm. Thank you for joining me here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for that intro from Vince. Hey, look, you're losing a little bit on the looks department with Max, but I'll be fine with the football. I think I can hang with Max, but no.
Yeah. We can definitely talk through the football. I think I would love to have Max here so we could have like a goal call off, but instead we'll stay with the radio voice. Like I said, this is the podcast. We've been doing podcasts every day this week, and we're doing this one live because we are here at Banc of California Stadium, live at open training. LAFC, I think they're probably wrapping up training now, and Philly's going on to the pitch. We're starting to feel the excitement, Dave. We got a chance to go inside the stadium and see how it's been redressed. It's still very much, for LAFC fans that might be frightened, it still very much looks like an LAFC stadium, so don't worry about that. But there was a bit of excitement for us to walk around and see. You feel it now, right,
Absolutely,
Dave?
absolutely. I think it's not tension. It's just an elevated sense of importance, really, not to overstate it, because you just feel it different in there in the last, 24 hours, really, to build up now, as we're less than 24 hours away from kickoff. And it's just, 25 hours away.
Yeah.
Sorry. Maybe you do need Bretos here. Maybe it's okay. Good night, everyone.
No, you're doing a great job because you know how we work in soccer. We don't tell people when kickoff is, so they watch the pregame
That's true.
show.
Absolutely. So you got to watch the pregame
Dirty
show.
secret.
That's what I was considering. You're right. And it's just different in there. You can kind of feel it with the national media, obviously much more present for this game than you would usually see for any kind of regular season matchup. And that's been building through the playoffs, but this is different. It's a whole other level. It's absolutely what you play for all year, what we go through the entire season for. And when you look back, there's games, Vince, that I don't even remember from this regular season, it seems. Like, I've been doing my studies, and I'm like, did we play that? Oh, yeah, we did play them way back in May or whenever it was. It just seems like forever ago, but now it's all riding on these 90 minutes.
Max and I were talking about how when we went into the playoffs, this day seemed so far away, and then now literally it's crept up on us.
That's absolutely right. It has flown by. It's kind of like when you have a little kid, right? What do they say when you have a toddler? The days take forever, but the years just fly by. That's kind of what the playoffs feel like sometimes. You just want that next game to come, and then now you look back and you're like, wow, here we are. And you just wanted to savor every minute of it. That's really been the fun.
Well, both you and I have let's get to it. Like you even said, and I'm 100% agree with you. Why can't it be today?
I agree. Oh, yeah. I'm ready to call the game right now. Fine by me. If we can get all the teams together and everybody can agree to it, let's kick off right now.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Dave Denholm will call the game, and it will be your first MLS Final Cup call, so I'm sure you're super excited about that. But for LAFC fans, I can't reiterate it enough, the fact that your voice is going to be there because this event is very much an MLS event. LAFC kind of steps back, even though it's in our home stadium. But the one thing that we'll have, so maybe we do like the old kind of, this is how my dad used to go when we watch baseball games. You bring in the, do they have these anymore? The Walkman?
Oh, wow. Walkman. I was going to say transistor radio.
Yeah, transistor radio. Oh, yeah, you were going to go back even farther. But you can actually have Dave Denholm in your ears inside the stadium, or if you happen not be able to make it with tickets, you can listen to Dave Denholm.
People have told me they do that. I'm not going to say,
People have told me they do that as well.
That's,
you're not just,
thing
you're
that
not just
everybody
saying
wants
it for
to
the
do.
camera.
But yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, that's a great thing. And I used to do that as a kid. I'm not going to lie. So it's very cool that somebody would take the time to do that. And, they hit me up on social media with it. I really appreciate those fans. They've been great. The fans of the Black and Gold have been great to me, no doubt, since day one. So I really appreciate it.
Well, you've been great to them. I don't understand how you have a voice every time I'm able to see you. I'm assuming at about 3:34 on Saturday, you will be completely out of gas.
Well, I got to tell you, living in LA, that helps. It helps because I have friends who are voiceover actors, and they really did help me. The first year, there were games where I really struggled afterwards, and even to finish up like a post game, because once you stop that call, even for just a minute or two, my throat would tighten up, and it would be hard to finish the post game after the commercial break.
Right.
So I had a couple of friends who were voiceover actors, and they really helped me out with what they use and tricks they do, and some of the stuff they use to get through that.
I'll forever have your Denny Bouanga Supporter Shield winner call in my head, and I love that about it. It's like the Premier League commercial. There's always the one call. I think it's the Gerrard goal. You're kind of going to be that, I think, for LAFC.
Well, it was such a great moment, really. Perfect way to win the Shield like that against Portland, at Portland. Come on, Vince, we've talked about it.
Yes. We
They're
hate Portland.
so
You sports hate Portland a lot.
sports hateable. It's not even. They're right up there. I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, born and raised. They're right up there with the Steelers. I mean, they're beyond the Steelers for me. That's how bad that it's. I hate the Portland Timbers.
The Cleveland guy,
Sports
anyone
hate.
that you hate more than the Steelers is a big deal.
Absolutely.
People are in the chat. We're here on YouTube, and Darren Keepers, who's a good friend of the show and good listener.
What's up,
of yours.
Darren?
Darren, shout out to you. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We've got a couple surprises because we're here live. Like Dave said, there's some media members here. We're going to maybe bring some LAFC people through here. So we've got some guests for you. We've got some surprises. But Dave and I, most importantly, will be getting you ready for that game, giving you our thoughts, and eventually we'll give you some predictions. But I want to, in this moment, let's bring in our first guest. We have a guest right off the top. He's someone that I'm very familiar with, and Dave has become familiar with. It's Connor Kalopsis from 110 Football. He just
I feel like I'm in your seat, really.
He just happened to be hanging out here. Before we start, I have to address it. Western Conference champions hat. Who you are?
You guys like that?
You got it.
Just came in.
What's the mindset to getting
Guys,
that?
you
Hey,
gotta
wait,
do-
before you do this, we got to change. Yep, we're on.
Rookie.
Yeah, there we go.
Come
I'm a
on,
rookie.
Rook.
Anyway, I like to take everything one hat at a time, right? I like to celebrate the victories when they come. Tomorrow is an unknown. As much as I want to be optimistic and hope we come away with the trophy, until then, I'll be rocking this Western Conference champion hat.
Because we are that.
We are that. That's a fact.
We are that.
It's a fact.
That's for sure.
This is facts, not fiction.
So you're obviously a much younger man than both of us. When
You think?
Yeah, a little bit. When you
It's a
started
little bit.
watching LAFC, 'cause you've been here from the beginning, the
Yes.
5 years through. So you were what, 11 when you started? But to be fair, so you've kind of grown up with
Yeah.
this team.
Yeah.
But now, MLS Cup final. What has anything changed for you? Has this really cemented it more for you, or you were in no matter what? What are the emotions that are going on?
As a fan, it really does feel surreal, and I don't want to just say that because it's a big occasion and we're at an MLS Cup final, but the amount of times, and like we know how good this team is, right? And we're going to be talking about if this is MLS Cup or bust, what it'll mean if we don't come away with the trophy tomorrow. But regardless, we know how good this team is. We know how good this team has been in the past 5 years it has been around. And so being here at this occasion at MLS Cup, I mean, maybe it hasn't set in yet. Maybe I need to get to that 24th hour until it really does. But, you know, I'm optimistic. I'm confident. And as a fan, I'm trying to sink it in as much as possible and just live in the moment and not really shy away from the anxiety that will be a cup final.
Well, because sometimes with knockout playoffs in any sport, really, they're not that much fun as it's going on sometimes. Like, I got to say, I love the victory against the Galaxy in the playoffs. I was miserable
We
that
were.
whole game
The
calling that
entire
game. Not because it wasn't a great game or because LAFC didn't play well. They played great. But the Galaxy were battling, and I was just miserable just wanting that thing to be over with a win.
Yeah.
And it's more like relief for a big game like that. I think you have to enjoy tomorrow. You know, this is just
Yeah.
you really do, Connor. You're right. You just have to kind of step back because sometimes I get a little caught up in we have to win. We have to, of course, that's the main goal. But you really also have to enjoy that journey. It sounds cliche, but
Right.
how often does a team get to a final necessarily?
It's a sense of pride because over 5 years, the culture that this club has been able to put together, not just from fans, but everyone internally at the club. And, you know, 110 Football included, the amount of work that all of us as individuals have put in just for the sake of this club succeeding, it's kind of all cultivating to this one big moment, right? And there's a sense of pride to be able to represent your team in the city that it represents. So, you know, I'm not an LA native, but I feel like I'm going to be representing my city tomorrow in Los Angeles.
And that's what this team does. There's no doubt about it. It has really captured this city, captivated football fans, and it's been amazing, really. And let's be honest, you have to be good. They were good from the first kick.
Yeah.
And that makes all the difference, certainly. I mean, you can say anything else you want. If you're a team who comes out and wins 3 games your first year, it's going to be an uphill climb. But this team has given the fans something
Everything.
to be so pumped up about, and they've responded certainly. You know, enjoy it as much as you can. I know it's going to be nerve-wracking, no doubt about it. I don't want to go to penalties. I can tell you that much. I don't know if this old heart can take it,
We'll see.
but I got to tell you, it's going to be exciting.
All right, well let's get to the football because we're gonna bring in a few guests in here. We're gonna make sure that every single guest kind of goes through this and gives us a little bit of talking points that they're gonna be looking for in the football, and then you're gonna have to give us a prediction. So prepare.
I
for
have
that.
to?
You
Oh,
have
God.
to. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know if
Yikes.
did they tell you before you sat in the seat? That,
Nope,
that
but
was the
I'll think
contract?
about it while you
so
talk, Vince.
give us your take. I think we'll go through it like this for every everyone that sits in this chair. Let's start with Philly. Philly will win if fill in the blank for me.
Martinez plays well.
Okay. Jose Martinez.
Yeah, Jose Martinez.
Defensive midfielder.
He's ruthless. I in the regular season, yes, but in these playoff games, especially when you know that you don't have to play another game after this. This is the final game of the season. You're not going to be taking any precautionary decisions as a head coach. You don't have to sit anyone in for the sake of being healthy for the next game. This is it.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. And if he's able to take control more so than Ilie Sanchez, I think LAFC are.
Well, Martinez, and this is going to sound awful. I don't know how I can clean this up. Martinez is a butcher, but in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Like not in the way that you're a bitter,
He
fan
can play a
against
little
it.
bit, but at the end of the day,
he totes
his job.
the line a
He
little
knows
bit.
what his
Yeah.
job is.
But he's a guy who just destroys. Now, sometimes he destroys Philadelphia's offense too.
Sure.
Which could help LAFC, but he's a tough player. He is a red card waiting to happen sometimes.
He embodies the Philadelphia, the Philadelphia experience as a player, right? He's what Philadelphia is on the field.
I would say to your point about red cards, we've seen the refereeing in these playoffs slim to chance of none that the
Slim
referee
chance.
makes
Boy,
a
they're
decision like that.
And that could be big because if he knows that and he plays that way, there's no stopping that guy for his ruthlessness, no doubt. It's the city of brotherly hate. Let's face it. It's not. That's what Philly's all about.
Well, hey, I mean, I don't want to talk about baseball too much, but the Phillies lost last night.
I don't think they care.
Two teams falling out of the playoffs.
Yeah, well, okay. So let's
from your
flip it
lips,
now.
brother. From your lips.
I'm
Let's
just
hope-
saying,
yeah.
just that's for me.
So let's flip it now. LAFC will win if fill in the blank.
Boanga just plays his game.
Okay.
If Boanga has an okay game, LAFC will
Just
win.
an okay game.
Okay game. If he just is him.
I think he's gonna have to be really good.
It's tough to unlock that defense, but he's the guy who's been doing it
Mm-hmm.
against. And they haven't seen him yet.
I think his
Another factor.
baseline value that he adds, his okay is already at a higher level than any of Philadelphia's front three.
Okay. So now here's the big moment. As we send you off into MLS Cup,
MLS
the great
Cup.
unknown, to go to prepare for it. Your prediction.
1-0 LAFC.
1-0 LAFC. Who scores?
Boanga.
Bawanga. Okay. And so Blake he gets it past, but does Blake have I guess he had a reasonable good game.
Yeah, a pretty good game.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know how to feel, guys.
Yeah.
Now it's setting in.
We're
Maybe
with
we're
you,
getting
we're with
closer
you.
to that 24th hour.
Yeah.
Well-
it's a great comment actually. Strong defense for Philly versus strong attack for LAFC.
True.
It is. It's a battle of the things that are just going to be opposites. Opposite forces there. Both teams. That's how they play.
What's crazy is, and I hate to break this to people, Philly did score more goals in the regular season.
Well,
than
they had a
LAFC.
few of those 6-0 kind of things against some really dreadful.
They
teams
really
at
laid
the
it on.
time.
Yeah, there's some outliers
But,
there.
Yeah, taking nothing away from that. You got to still go out and do it.
Yep. Well, Connor Klopsis from 110 Football.
Thank you, guys.
We hope we've thoroughly pumped you up for the game, and now you're
A little
ready.
bit. I love you guys, but I hope that come Sunday we will be celebrating together.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
If not, crying on each other's shoulders.
Yeah, we'll be there for each other one way or the other.
Okay. Bye, guys. See you after an MLS Cup win.
All right, there he goes, Connor Klopsis. He has a 1-0 victory for LAFC.
Fine by me. Yeah. At this point,
Is that a good game to call? Depends.
Yes, they won.
Okay.
If they win, it's a great game to call. I don't care how that happens. Don't get me wrong, but certainly 3-2,
Yeah.
4-3 wouldn't be terrible either. But I'd take like a 5-2. How about a nice laugher
Great.
where we're not sweating it to the bitter end?
Kind of a little bit higher level than the
Like
Austin
the
game.
Austin game. That was perfectly fine. I
Yeah,
take
you
the
knew-
same thing over again.
I was telling Sebastian Ebiag, I was like, I knew 10 minutes in, didn't need to be nervous anymore.
Yeah, I felt it once they didn't reverse that VAR penalty
Mm-hmm.
call. Once that happened, I knew it was our day.
All right, Dave. Well, I want to bring in our next guest. He joins us from the LA Daily News. And I love when I get to see him because this guy really covers LA sports from top to bottom. So I think he's going to give us a perspective that's a little bit different. Come on in, Josh
buddy.
Gross.
You bet. How are you?
Sit on down there, Josh.
Yeah.
Josh, I want to get, like I said, you cover LA sports from top to bottom. I mean, you've been here doing it. You've been doing the work. Dodgers, Lakers, all of it. What is the vibe? What is the vibe of an MLS Cup final now here in LA?
I think It's hard to say. Like, I thought the city may feel more energized than it does, but maybe I'm missing it because I'm like in my bunker writing nonstop for all these stories for the LA Daily News this week. But there's definitely going to be the energy on Saturday, and I don't think we have to worry about that. It's kind of low key, but it fits because Steve is low key and Jim Curtin is low key, and these are teams that, for all the glamour talk you get, like they go about their business, like they handle their business, and I think there's going to be business done on Saturday, and that's how I feel like most people are sort of interacting with this matchup.
I think some of that gamesmanship is missing because there's no underdog. I know Philadelphia is technically the betting underdog, and
Right.
certainly they have to come.
They're trying to
to a place
make
where
themselves
it's hard to
underdogs.
win and everything. Absolutely, LAFC is to the favorite. I get that, but there's really no. This is not David versus Goliath by any means.
So I was 1-1 since the first time since 2003, right?
Wow,
So there's
yeah.
no David versus Goliath here. I think the one big factor is this stadium and the people inside it. And if this match was in Philadelphia, you would say the same thing. So there's not a lot separating these teams. I mean, just look at how they've played each other. And I think it's a fantastic matchup. It couldn't be a more competitive matchup.
We heard Connor talk about Martinez. Your thoughts a little bit. That's kind of a linchpin, certainly, for that Philadelphia defense, but also getting forward as well.
Well, I just got out of the press conference with Jim Curtin and Steve Cherundolo, and there was a question asked about Martinez, and you should have seen Curtin light up. He just big smile. He knows what he's got in that guy. He relayed a great story about him that, people really didn't know who he was. And during the pandemic, he went down to Miami for 2 to 3 months with his family and came back a different beast, just a human being. They're like, "What'd you do down there?" He's all I ran every day on the beach for 3 months. And somehow that's clicked for him. But, Philadelphia relies on that guy. Yes, he can be a mauler and certainly someone you have to watch for. I'm not sure LAFC has an equivalent kind of player in terms of approach. But like you said, there's good and bad, right? I heard the conversation before I came on. Good and bad with that. It can turn. It can go one way or another. I think if he's doing the hatchet job, LAFC will have a response for that. I would imagine they would.
Well, I generally don't like to get into this with people other than Josh because you have a competitive background from UFC, and just like when we talk about people like the guy doesn't want her, he's not tough. I'm like, well, we're talking about soccer players, and you're able to, you see these guys that have to come in the weigh-ins, they stare each other down. So you have kind of a different perspective on the competitiveness. And we've talked about LAFC throughout the years and how did they have that in them? Was there anybody? Have you seen something change as John Thornton's changes to a more veteran-laden squad? Do you see a little bit of an edge or something that has that mean streak or competitiveness that LAFC might need to be mean in the moments?
I don't think it's mean. It's almost like a quiet ruthlessness. It's like going about your business, and that's Cherundolo to me. The difference that we've seen in the last half hour of matches, last 15 minutes of matches compared to what we saw here, disappointments in the postseason were because they didn't deliver late. And then I think Steve's just brought a pragmatism that obviously John Thornton knew was there.
Right.
And that we've seen just permeate throughout this club, up and down the lineup, up and down the way they play from game to game. And that came out against Austin. I mean, to play your best match of the season in that spot, I think says everything that you would want to say about their competitiveness, their desire, their drive. And then having that ability to actually turn it on in the moment is not something that everybody gets. That's I'm not going to say it's rare, but it's not common. And, I would expect nothing less on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Steve, but I also have to say that the whole staff has been amazing this year, really. I cannot praise them enough.
Yeah.
The work that Mark Dos Santos, Oka, certainly Ante has been here since day one. Just incredible work with that staff. And just the fact that he came in and, kept Ante around. A lot of times managers just bring in their own people.
He went out of his way.
Yeah,
I mean, there's it hasn't really been talked about that much, but he had to kind of go and convince Ante to stick around, and because he wanted Ante.
But
He's
it
like, "I
paid
need you
huge
here."
dividends for the team, no question. And certainly Chicho Arango, we can see it out of him in the way he does it. But Ante's been such a big factor. I mean, they've had a great year.
I would say you have to credit Ante, too, because he was in discussions for taking over that head coaching position here, right?
Right.
And there's not a lot of people who would have the ability to say, oh, I was up for that job, and now I'm not going to get it, and I have to work under the guy who came in.
Mm-hmm.
That, I think, speaks highly of what he's about and what they've built here.
All right, well, you heard some of the questions we asked Connor, so we will pose them to you. Let's start with Philly. Philly wins if
Daniel Gazdag controls the middle of the field in the attack. I think that's a really big piece for them. Jim Curtin talked about how important he is. If the ball plays through him, if they get good progression from him, then that's where a lot of their goals come from. So big on Ilya Sanchez to handle him, Gazdag, and really limit, I think, the Union's best offensive player, I think, by a wide margin. So that would be it.
Yeah, sneaky. Can you be a sneaky 20-goal scorer?
No,
But like his
but
position,
he
he
does.
doesn't.
He somehow. If you had to ask people, even MLS fans, how many goals does Daniel Gazdag have? You'd probably be like,
Maybe
8
10.
to 10, maybe, and that's a great year.
A lot of people will be like, who? Like,
Yeah,
they
well,
wouldn't
fair
even
enough.
know.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's my Hungarian blood. So,
No,
yeah.
I would like to point out again, as we keep talking about how Philly tries to put themselves as the underdog. I know that LAFC spends a lot more on salaries, and they even spend more on transfer fees. But Philly has spent some money on transfer fees. Gazdag, one of them.
Yeah.
Ure. Like it's not like these guys are just scrubs that they found.
But that's not even what it's about. It's just Philadelphia is number one in the East by a good margin. I mean, Montreal made it interesting, but Philly's been the best team there.
Mm-hmm.
They're a team that had the same amount of points as LAFC throughout the season and a better goal difference.
Right.
LAFC had more victories. Philly had a lot less losses, though, if you want to look at it that way. So this is a team that is they can't ride the underdog, woe is us kind of thing that Austin tried to do.
Look, we're talking about a late goal to tie it 2-2 is the reason why this game is here. I mean, the margins are so thin. I had a great chat with Larry Berg, who's the managing owner of LAFC, and I wrote a piece for the LA Daily News about this kind of two different ownership styles, right? We're seeing it. It's a perfect example here with Philadelphia. And, the narrative that they don't spend, I think, is misplaced, and it misses a lot of things because they spend a lot on academy. They spend a lot on that kind of infrastructure, and you don't see those costs. Those aren't listed in the, MLS Players Association, right? You don't see those in transfer fees. So there is investment. There's similar investment. It's just different places. So it's philosophy competing against philosophy. And Larry also said, like, I think if you just hammer us as like a glamour club, you're missing a lot of what we're doing. And I feel like that's correct as well.
Well, it's interesting because Philly did mouth off about that. So there was
Yeah, they got it managed by the league too. Tanner Ernst got
he got a little bit of fine
slapped
there.
down by the
jab
MLS.
there.
Yeah.
I like that though. That does bring a little extra level to this too. Certainly not necessarily on the pitch for tomorrow, but just between the clubs moving forward. And maybe the rivalry develops. It's hard to develop that rivalry in MLS when it's East-West.
Right.
You just don't see the other team enough.
I see it though because you see the trajectory over the last 5 years, and they're just not neck and neck this year on points. They've been neck and neck for 5 years.
Yeah.
And, it felt like to me that if the pandemic had not happened, these teams would have met earlier in an MLS Cup. Like this is a collision course kind of matchup that we're talking about. And for me, Philadelphia has been such a better team since 2018, really since Ernst came in. You have to give him credit for the change of philosophy. Alejandro Bedoya had a lot to do with that in 2016. So these franchises that, aspire to greatness, I don't think it's going to be the last time we see this as an MLS Cup.
Literally the pandemic, by the way, because that was the last match played before the pandemic.
What a match.
Right.
All right, let's move to the black and gold side. LAFC wins if.
Boy, I mean, they've won games in so many different ways, I think that by really limiting Philadelphia's chances inside the 18, because LAFC was the best at doing that all season long, and Philadelphia, I think all the goals scored in the run of play were inside the 18, if I have that right. I remember the goals that Philadelphia did score against LAFC, and they've been some wonder strikes, like incredible goals that you cannot count on in a regular matchup. And if they're going to pull something like that, they've got a good chance of winning on Saturday. But if they don't, I think LAFC just keeps it simple, defend, do everything that they've done, and the win is there for the taking.
That's been a huge talking point in that LAFC locker room throughout the entire season, leading into the season. And I guess it comes down to Steve Cherundolo is box defending. We've got to be good in both boxes. I think, Bob's prior approach was we play football, let's have the better football. Steve's kind of broken it down more and compartmentalized it. And you're right, Josh. They really have been very good in their box. But the days that they're not, that's when LAFC gets into trouble.
Absolutely, but they have been so good at that offensively too in the box now. And Philadelphia is very tough on set pieces, defending them. Now, it's beyond Andre Blake. They had the defender of the year. They could have had a couple of defenders of the year, realistically. You take your pick. And that has been a big strength for Philadelphia. They just, people think, well, they have all these goals, but the goal difference is because of that defense, one of the best in MLS, really, history. And certainly LAFC can break them down. There's no doubt about that. But, it's going to be tough. I mean, Andre Blake is that good, Josh.
Right, and you remind me, one more key, if I can do it, pounce on rebounds. Because this guy gets his hands on everything. They've scored off of rebounds against Andre Blake. I think you have to be opportunist in this kind of match, and that's really where to do it, because he does. I mean, he covers that net. It's unbelievable. And you have to expect him to stop maybe a shot, but be out of position there. And, we've seen how opportunist LAFC has been. It's what they've done all year.
Yeah, he's aggressive, and they want him to be aggressive. Okay, so now the hardest question of all. What is your prediction for the final?
Yeah. I think LAFC wins. I see a 4-2 final. I think it's going to be high scoring, but I don't think the fourth comes till late. So I think we're going to be on the edge of our seat, 1-goal game most of the match, and then something late, someone off the bench, something like LAFC's done all year. I don't see why that would change in this matchup.
Oh, I would love to call that match right there. That sounds like a great match to call, no doubt.
Well, you said you've been tied to the computer, putting out stories. Anything that we should be looking to come out in
Yeah, I got to go run up right now and finish a couple stories. Like I said, I wrote the piece on this, looking at the LAFC ownership and sort of the perception versus the reality in this matchup in terms of the two ownership styles. Have a breakdown of the match coming out tomorrow. So we have great coverage. We've been covering all week, so we're happy to be here and doing it.
Awesome. Josh Gross, LA Daily News. Check out LA Daily News. He said there's been a slew of stories they've been writing all week, and he's actually got to go up to write right now, as he said. So
people have been very impressed, by the way. I'm hearing a lot of good things.
Happy to
Good
hear
job. Yep.
Always one of my favorite people. Thank you, Josh.
All right.
Absolutely. Josh, thanks.
There he goes, Josh. Josh had a lot of good talking points that I think we should dive into.
Absolutely.
I want to dive into that one about the depth, how he sees the game playing out, and LAFC just has a little bit of a superior depth. Philly gets here off the back of, it's not that they don't have depth, it's just Jim Curtin had an 11 and didn't really have to change, and he rolled with it.
Yeah, they've been pretty healthy, relatively.
Been pretty healthy.
Up until Alejandro Bedoya has been struggling a little bit, but it's the final. He'll be fine, you know. And
I don't know. I think he had tried to rev it up a couple times, and I think maybe that.
I'm not saying he's going 90 by any means, but
he's gonna factor into this game.
Absolutely.
There's no chance that he doesn't dress.
So they've been pretty healthy, and you're right, Vince. They don't have the depth that LAFC does. Nobody does.
Right.
Really. This is the deepest roster I've ever seen in MLS that LAFC has, and it has been working. I mean, the second halves, we've been the best second half team in the history of MLS. So, as Josh said, I don't see that really necessarily changing for this match. That might make all the difference.
Well, so there was a moment, obviously, when they made the slew of signings, and a lot of it was based off of who the signings were, the Gareth Bales, the Giorgio Chiellinis, Christian Teo, where people were like, you're bringing in too many players. I don't like that things are changing. In their mind, it was chemistry or whatever, whatever they thought it was. But I look at it now that we're here in MLS Cup Final and seeing a Philly team that, yes, they very much could come into this game and play very well and have a lot of energy, but having to play 11 guys through the entire season, pretty much the same 11 guys.
Sure.
And now Steve has the ability to change the game with high-level players that not just are high-level but rested. It's interesting. It's hard to talk about because, to your point, it's never happened in this league.
Oh, it could make all the difference. I really believe that. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Andre Blake, we'll talk more about him, though. He is an X factor, certainly, if you're trying to beat him for a goal.
Well, I mean, let's talk about Andre Blake now. I mean, we do whatever we want. We're running this show. I love that people are pointing out my pants. La Rosa pants.
They are some pants.
I do.
You have pants on.
I made sure
I'll give you that.
to do some pants here, but we've actually never mind. We're not going to talk about Andre Blake yet. We've got Max Bretos.
Please.
Yeah,
of course.
He was. There was no way he was not going to make it into an MVP. So we've
it's
got
his world. I'm just sitting in the chair right now.
We've got the TV voice of LAFC. I've got the radio voice, and I'm just Vince. Max Bretos, how are you?
Great, guys. I've been listening in. What a fantastic show, and I just love how you've been covering it every single way. Did want to mention about Josh Gross, great writer, not just in the print media, but as a novelist, as a guy in tremendous nonfiction. And I want to shout out the Daily News because they have been so active this week, or some other places have not. So the Daily News front page was deal for LAFC, and Josh, we're lucky to have him in our ecosystem. And you guys have been fantastic, really looking at this matchup in every which way, doing a first-rate job. So I've been a great listener. I'm getting smarter here listening in.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Max.
Well, Max,
you're the best, Dave.
Max, we've been doing podcasts all week, so we've been trying to get keyed up for it. But we've been trying to keep our energy levels so that we can make it through Saturday and possibly into Sunday. But where is your excitement level at now that we're about 24 hours out?
It's through the roof, and it's like it shows like this, and getting to see MLS Cup 2 come to Los Angeles and unfurl everything that comes with it, from the commissioner addressing the state of the league. It's for every reason, because this was such a anticipated matchup, because this was the matchup we had been talking about all year. I mean, it's been, as you guys touched on, a collision course, which doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it happened, and it happened in the end with pretty comfortably. These two teams, although Philadelphia did find themselves behind for a few minutes against New York City FC and punish them for it, these have looked like the two best teams. And when we're 24 hours out, you can't help but be excited that this is going to be a titanic tilt that we've compared to other big sports, because MLS needs that. They need the big teams to play in the big moments, and this is it. And for all the reasons that you've listed out why these teams are so good, and they are so good across the board, there are no weaknesses. You can look harder and find maybe some small ones that can give one of these teams an edge. But this is, to me, shaping up to be the biggest, certainly anticipation-wise, with the Toronto FC Seattle game in 2017 and some of the Beckham games, the best final, a showpiece. And I think the potential of it being entertaining because of, as what we've described all week, the way they play, is very, very high. This is going to be a special game.
Well, I think it is for me too, Max, because the only other final we've been in, we couldn't go.
Right.
You know, nobody could go. No fan. I'm ready to explode to do this game. I'm so pumped to do it. Like I actually need this.
Yeah.
Honestly, to talk about it with you and to do these kind of things, just so I don't get too pumped up.
It is.
It's amazing. You know, I'm just so ready for it. I can't imagine what the players are going through.
Max, I don't want to rush you, but we've gotten to hear both my voice and your voice all week, which you have done a stellar job. But we have a fantastic guest that's walking up. So I want to get one more thing from you. It's time, Max. Your prediction. I need it. Max Bretos, what is it?
I'll be brief. These teams have scored 10 goals in their last two meetings. They've all been ties. So I'm going to get a little bit cute. I know it was 3-3, then it was 2-2. I'm going 1-1. And the two things that distinguish LAFC from Philadelphia in this matchup, home field and what you talked about in depth. And I think they both come into play. Someone comes off the bench and wins this game for LAFC in extra time. Don't know who.
Okay,
but it could be a couple guys.
1-1 in regular time, 2-1 after extra time.
Correct.
I'd be happy to call that game too. So that sounds good.
Yeah, we need a few of your calls in the bank here, Dave, in the showpiece event.
Oh yes, absolutely. I need another. Well, wash out the supporter shield, winning one with another championship.
Look,
call
black and gold. Wear out my voice tomorrow. That's fine by me.
All right. Well,
you can rest Sunday or Monday.
Yes,
exactly.
Max Bretos, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, as I always do. And we'll see you tomorrow.
See you bright and early.
Bright and early. I'm going to try to ride in with Max Bretos on public transportation, as everyone should. If you
gotta take the metro.
Yeah, if you haven't heard enough, no parking around here. But please take public transportation. It'll be a lot of fun. Dave, we have a very special guest.
I'm pumped. I'm ready.
I'm seeing him from far away, and he's dressed very special as well. Ladies and gentlemen,
what's up, buddy?
What's up, guys?
John McCarthy is joining us. As you can tell, as he sits down, he is the biggest Philly supporter, not Philadelphia Union, Philly
Definitely
supporter, and definitely not tomorrow. But Phillies. Your first love of Philly sports teams, or is it Eagles?
Sixers.
Sixers? No
Sixers.
way.
Yeah, Sixers.
Who was your guy? Who's your Sixers guy? Let's talk about some guys. As a bunch of dudes sitting around talking.
It's got to be Allen Iverson.
It's like AI, Aaron McKee, Eric Snow, Dikembe Mutombo. That
it's a good group.
Yeah. That was the team when they were like really good in championship and stuff. So that was like the core.
When they lost to the Lakers.
That was a good team back then.
I'm just bringing it back to LA because that's what's going to happen here on Saturday.
That's right.
The Philly team's going to come in.
Well, that's the funny thing about the Phillies jersey. Everybody in LA is a Phillies fan now. You're playing the Astros.
Yeah.
Who wants the Astros to win? We just don't want Philadelphia Union to win. So we're all on the same. We're all on the Philly side. No problem with that.
Yeah, you could walk into a Dodgers bar with that, and people will celebrate you.
I got a lot of love for that.
A lot of love. I want to remind people in the chat, if you guys have any questions for Big John McCarthy, please let us know, and I will read them out to him. But John, I want to get your thoughts. Obviously, you're a Philly guy, but you're bleeding black and gold through and through throughout the year. What is this like for you?
Yeah, this is the first final I've been in a long time. Last final I was in was the Open Cup final, my first year in Philly, and then before that was in high school. So like. It's been a long time, and I don't want to take this moment for granted, but I just want to win. I don't care how or what we have to do, or it's an unbelievable moment, and I want to make the most of it.
Well, one of the ways you can win, of course, in the playoffs, unfortunately, is penalties. So what's the prep like in a week like this with you and Max and Oka and everything? How do you get ready for that? I mean, it is a big part of the playoffs.
Yeah. I think the most important thing is just worrying about the 90 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, that's where your head's at. You take it minute by minute, play by play. You don't think too far ahead, and you can't look back for sure. So that's where the mindset's at, and if something like that happens, you go into overtime, and if PKs come around, they come around. So
That's fair.
take it little by little. You don't want to
Yeah.
look too far ahead.
So Max and I were lucky to kind of get out to training, but we've been hiding. We've been staying away from you guys to let you guys have your time to do your thing. But we did get to talk to Jordan Harvey yesterday, and he was saying it's been normal. Like, we've been keeping the regiment going, and he said that was probably the biggest part. Obviously, you're gonna love the stadium when you get in there, and the fact that you get these guys. But he's like, travel's one thing, and the fact that we're not traveling is great. But these guys keeping the same routine, and Steve is keeping the same routine for you guys.
Yeah, you don't want to change too much. You don't want to. It's another game, realistically. It's 90 minutes. You know, obviously there's all the hype around it, media, trophies, stuff like this. But it's just it truly is 90 minutes. We've been through what, 2 playoff games now already. You're on your 3rd one. You don't want to change anything. You don't want to think you have to do more. You scout more, look into more. You just same routine, same everything. You're not gaining fitness at this point of the season, so you don't need to it's just same routine, same mindset, focus, push on.
Well, every game is a final for one team. Every playoff game, because they're going home. So you're right, John. It's just another.
It's another game.
You got to move on, and you got to get that W like you had to in the first 2 games of the playoffs.
Exactly.
So what do you think of this match, John? I mean, you're a player, so we don't want to give any bulletin board material. But they come in here earlier this season. It's 2-2. It's 2 very different teams now, though. But the previous season was a 3-3. Like, the games were always frenetic, and maybe that's to a compliment to both team styles. Like, you guys want to get out there and run, play the game, really do things. So when I look at this, I see 2 teams that it's plan A versus plan A. What are your thoughts on kind of how the game may matriculate, how it might be out there?
Yeah, I bet you the first 15 minutes I think they could be frantic for both sides. You know, it's just, you don't know what people are going to do. You don't know what people are thinking on that day. So I think it could be a frantic game, but it'll definitely be an entertaining one. It's 2 different types of style, more possession-based, more attacking mindset. And then I think the little bit long ball side, Jimmy Curtin came out and said it, you know, they were a little bit more frantic, and they make the game tougher to play against. You know, that's how they play. So it's 2 different styles that are coming together that both find a way to win. That's a good thing.
Well, one of the things we talk about a lot with goalkeepers is goalkeeping is not just about shot stopping, it's about organizing. And can you talk a little bit about what Max has done with this defense too during these playoffs, these last few? I mean, what a great shutout against Austin. I mean, the defense just shut Austin down.
Huge.
And that is a big part of keeping, you know, it's as we talked about, it's more than just the shot stopping. It's that organization and the communication back there.
Yeah, it's having a good relationship. It's having a good trust in your back line, and making sure your back line knows that Max is back there, and he's done that all season long, and he's done great with it, you know. So I think his presence back there and the confidence that he instills in the back line is huge for not only just the back 4, but the guys in front of him. Whether it's a back pass, whether it's a cross, whether it's a shot, they know there's a good goalkeeper behind them, and that instills confidence throughout the team.
One of the things I loved about John this year, though, is
there's a lot to love about John this year. You've had a lot of moments this year, John.
And it's not like a class clown thing, but he keeps everybody light.
Right.
He keeps it loose. And
I
mean, that's your personality anyway, but that is important sometimes. In a long season, you guys are professional athletes, but it's a grind.
Yeah.
You know, and you've had some fun moments, whether you meant to or not, really. You got some, national publicity on some of that stuff. I'm not saying you consciously think about that, but it is a big factor, is to kind of keep everybody loose, especially as it gets tighter as the playoffs go on.
Yeah, I just try to enjoy it. Like, every moment, I try to enjoy it. There's like two ways about me. When I'm on the field, I'm all business. I like to win. You know, when I'm off the field, the simplest way to put it is I like talking shit. I like having fun. That's the way to be. You know, you got to enjoy it. So there's no other way around it. Like, that's just me as a person.
And your equal opportunity too. It's like the top of the roster, the bottom roster, you're gonna get it from
all.
Yeah.
I don't pick and choose who I make fun of. I get it at Steve. You know, I get after the young guys. I get after the old guys. That's how it has to be. You got to enjoy everyone.
Well, you mentioned Steve, and the relationship obviously is developing. Certainly his first season, but. You've been around the club now for a couple of seasons, and talk a little bit about him. LAFC has been great from day one with Bob. He did an amazing job. And then now Steve has just kind of added to that, and he is such a special coach.
Yeah, Steve, I think, has done a fantastic job, you know. He was one of the guys up for Coach of the Year, in my opinion. First coach comes in, you win Supporters Shield your first year.
And improve the team dramatically record-wise.
Yeah.
We missed the playoffs last season.
Yeah, a huge turnaround season. But him as as a person, I think is even better. His personality. He's a player's coach. He gets along with all the guys. It's not like you can't go up to him out of a conversation, or you should be timid about it anyway. He'll go up to you and he'll joke and enjoy it. So he's not just a guy that walks in and tells you what to do on the field and then turns his back on you when he's off the field. I think that goes a long way because he's a good, very, very good players coach.
So I mentioned these two teams have like definitive styles, and it's plan A versus plan A. But I've kind of sold LAFC short a little bit because you guys have found ways this season to play the game that's laid out for you if you guys maybe can't create the game yourself. So in that regard, I want to ask you this question. Of the two playoff games, which do you think serves you guys better? The Galaxy game, in that regard, I'm going to say, you know, the game maybe didn't start out the way you guys wanted to, but you were able to keep it in it. You were able to get the first goal. And in the second half, you started to gain a foothold and you really took a little bit of control of that game. Whereas Austin was like plan A, went right from minute 1 to the 90th. So is one or the other actually more helpful going into the final in terms of mentality, possibly?
So you're saying like which game plan am I like? Which
not which
game
game
am I
plan,
leaning
but which
towards?
I'm saying if they have to if at some point in the game they have to lean on something and they say, well, we've been here for this. Is it better? Like, I guess what I'm saying is this: when you get the game plan that goes right from minute 1 to 90, can you really like count on that, or is it better to have sometimes things go wrong and to deal with that, especially in a final circumstance?
You hope it. In my opinion, I would think right from minute 1 to 90. You know, your front foot, your front throttle, your game plans, you're clicking, the guys are clicking, everything's going your way, and your momentum is all in the right direction. You know, you want to be on the front foot, you want to control the game, and you want to push the other team back. So I think that's how I would play. But I think there's been moments this season where we've had a bad 15, we've had a bad 45. Like you said, we were a little bit slow in the Galaxy game. And that just happens, and you wake up in the second half, and you gotta put it together. So, for me, it's first minute to 90th minute. You get everything right. Hopefully, things go your way. Things should go your way. That's where we're at, and I think that's what we hope for. But if it doesn't, you find a plan A minus, and and then you sort it out. But I think either way, we can figure it out.
Yeah, we talk about that in poker. You want to have your A game all the time, but you want to make sure your B game is better than everybody's B game, and your C game is better, even if you're not having the best day.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. Sometimes
John,
you're not going to play your best football. You got to go out
poker
and
guy?
do it.
You a hold'em guy?
No, I'm more of a craps guy.
All right.
That does not surprise me in the least with John.
You
I
get
got
a
to
bunch
say.
of guys around the table
love it.
enjoying throwing dice. You know,
I
it's
love
fun. And you can blame the other guy for having a bad throw.
John, like I said, I'm not going to ask you so we've been asking people, will LAFC win if, will Philly win if, and then prediction. I'm not going to ask you that because I don't want any bulletin board material, but this could be a bulletin board material depending. Someone has asked in the chat, tacos or cheesesteaks?
Good cheesesteak is like cheesesteak French fries for me. You know, that's like bread and butter. That's like the go-to. You know, I'm a huge fan of tacos and stuff like that. My wife is a huge fan of the tacos. So like it's close, but I'm a cheesesteak guy. Like don't ever go against
this
that.
This is how good John McCarthy is. He just gave bulletin board material to his own team. John McCarthy says cheesesteaks, and all those guys are going to go in there and go, how dare he? We're going to go out there against Philly and we're going to crush them.
Yeah, I have to stay true.
He's so smart. You're so smart.
Yeah.
You got your team pumped up and ready to go.
Yeah.
So.
Two steps ahead. Another fan has asked, Kevin Demetrio, could you give him a shout out? Just a shout out to Kevin. I love it since you're here.
Kevin, what's up, man? Shout out Kevin Demetrio.
Fantastic. I love it.
Before we let you go, obviously winning a championship is what you're looking forward to most. But give me something else that you're looking forward to most when you show up to the stadium here tomorrow.
I'm looking forward to seeing the 3-2-5 too. I'm looking forward to seeing my wife and my son in the stands. I'm looking forward to seeing my mom, my dad, my brother, and just a great environment. Because in a final, like I said, it's very, very rare, and you don't realize that as a kid that you take it for granted, like tournaments and stuff like that. But realistically, those are the moments that I hope after 90 minutes, I got tears of joy with my family, and I truly get to celebrate an awesome moment. And the 3-2-5-2 is something special this year. It's probably the best fan base I've ever seen from start to finish. So to be able to celebrate that's what I want to see tomorrow.
I am so ready. I am so pumped up now. Come on.
That was low key, like quite the pep talk for all of us.
That was amazing. You saw that Michael Sheen speech for Wales? This is low key, but it's just the same effect.
Yeah, John, we're sending you to Qatar now to talk to the US national team.
Let's
You're going to have to give it a chat.
Hey, I'm ready. I'm ready for tomorrow.
That is fantastic. Seriously.
I've been thinking about it, so I really can't wait to just walk into the stadium. That whistle blows, and it's going to be I'm sorry, but it's going to be fucking electric.
I love it.
Yeah.
Philly guy.
Yeah.
You know, these two are 100% on board with that, and everyone in the chat is as well. And I just want to thank you for taking some time out, John, to join us and have some fun with us, man.
Awesome. I can't
you,
wait
buddy.
to see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah,
Appreciate
can't
it.
wait to see
Thank
you
you.
tomorrow.
Go Phillies too. Let's
Yeah,
do it.
let's go.
Beat Houston.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah. I mean,
Why not?
Nobody wants Houston to win.
Yep.
So.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you,
bud.
John.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
There he goes, John McCarthy. Always a pleasure to have on the podcast. Dude can talk.
Oh, man.
Dude can bring it. But can we go back to that speech for just like a hot second?
I'm
I got
serious.
goosebumps a little.
I really did. It made me want to, just experience it more deeply than I even am because, you can't forget, even as Connor talked about, it is so big that it's, you have to step back a little bit.
Yeah.
I know as a player, it's different, certainly.
It's a
You
result.
got to get ready to go do something,
well,
but
it's a result-driven business, but you
Yeah,
got to enjoy some
you
of it,
have
right?
to. Yeah, at least you have to let yourself, even if it's misery in the sense of how pain, like the buildup is, and even if you're like so tense, you just got to let yourself even enjoy that, even the misery of getting to this game, because I am just so ready and so pumped up to do it. It's not really this stuff. I said, Vince, this stuff, I need this stuff because
Yeah.
it's not that much fun just waiting around for that game
Mhm.
right now. It's so
No,
close. So
it's not.
I need to talk to the fans. I need to talk to John. I need to talk to you about this game.
Mhm. I mean, it's resonating with the chat. Christopher's in there. New favorite player, absolute legend. So I think it went through the airwaves, or is it airwaves for the internet? I don't know. It went through there and it channeled into somebody, and they got the goosebumps. Too.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all ready now.
Well, you said you need this, so me and you, let's really dive into the game now. We might have some special guests still to come, but let's get Dave and I, and let's start with the X factor in this game. We'll give our LAFC will win if. Philly will win if, but let's start with an X factor. What's something that maybe we're not talking about that you could see having something to do with this game? It might not even be. It might be just the home field advantage. Might be the time of day.
No, that's exactly what it is. It's not a cliche. This is a massive home field advantage with this crowd and the 32-52 and all the bank.
Mhm.
I don't want to. 32-52 is head and shoulders above anything I've seen, but the entire bank gets behind the 32-52 who are
Right.
getting behind the team. And then that's how they drive this club. And it really, you've heard players talk about when they hear that Dale right off the, it's
Mhm.
like, let's go.
When that drum beat drops.
Oh, come on. That the opening of the game, and you're just so pumped up. I use it in my broadcast. Sometimes I'll tell my engineer, let's listen to the crowd for a few seconds, and just get it. I get pumped up by that. It actually carries me through the broadcast. So I can only imagine what it does for the players. That's really the goal of what a crowd is supposed to do. And I've said it before. I've been in LA almost 25 years working in LA, and I love LA sports. Such an underrated sports town, Vince. It's the most underrated sports town in the world. It's a great sports town. There's nothing like the 32-52 and going to the bank. Not the Lakers, not the Dodgers. They're awesome. They're not on the same level
Mhm.
as LAFC fans. It's just maybe that's part of football, our beautiful game. Maybe that has something to do with it, but I think it's just the fans take it to such a different level that you just cannot experience anywhere else in sports.
I think other sports, it's also tough. There's no rhythm to the game quite like there is to football. There's the drums.
It's 45 and 45, and then you just keep going. You got to keep going. You
Mhm.
have to keep that passion going because, there's little mini breaks, maybe an injury time, a little bit, but not for the fans. And
Right.
it's you never know when that next, like in football, okay, I know you can throw a 70-yard bomb occasionally, or
Mhm.
maybe a guy breaks a tackle, but you kind of know how a drive, they talk about touchdown drive. You don't know in soccer. One little slip, one little pass, that's perfect. One little picking a corner out to beat Andre Blake, and all of a sudden it's 1-0 and
Mhm.
the place goes nuts. And that's just that's why I love the game. It's passion.
Right.
That's what the sport is built on, and you're definitely going to see that here tomorrow.
Right. That's why it's the beautiful game. So we're getting into brass tacks here because we're wrapping it up. So Dave and I are now going to kind of give what our key is for each team. As my mic has been turned around, and
I'm so excited. I keep doing
after I
that.
told Connor I did that, and that's on me. Okay, Dave. Let's start with Philly. Philly wins if, and we'll trade these.
Philly wins if Andre Blake stands on his head to the point where
That would be mine, so I'll give a different one. But yes,
it's
go
a Joe
on about
it's a
Andre
Joe
Blake.
Willis type
Yep.
performance.
It's a football thing, right?
Yeah.
It's so funny to me after that Nashville game. And look, I think there were some other things playing into it. When you've already wrapped up the supporter shield, you ease off just a little
Yes,
bit.
no
But
question.
everyone goes, how could we lose to Nashville? I don't have a good feeling going to the playoffs. I go, this is football. Are
That
you
was
new
one of the
here?
best
This is the first
games-
lesson you should learn in
That
football.
was one of the best games LAFC played all
It
year.
was. See,
I mean,
thank you. Thank
it
you.
really was. And it was, to me, yes, of course, you lost and you don't want to lose a game.
You don't want to lose. It's
but it was
results
kind of
driven.
like
but
getting the loss out of the way.
Yeah.
You know, I'll whisper it because
and man, was
the
it
players
pretty?
don't want to
Other
hear
than
that.
it going in the back of the net, what a pretty game.
It was one of the most beautiful performances too. Not only just one of the best performances, but one of the most beautiful performances. Hey, credit to Nashville, they won. They deserved to win. They got the goal. But I mean, come on, that could have been a 5-1, and no one would have been surprised. So I felt that was actually a good stepping stone into the postseason. How they were playing, and it's carried over.
My Philly will win if their forwards are active and involved. And that, I don't necessarily mean scoring, but if there's a way that they can unbalance LAFC and maybe hold some balls and get the team going in transition. Because I know that Philly loves to go back to front real quick. And sometimes to do that, you need to send a long ball and have a guy like Ure, who's a big physical guy. Kranz is pretty physical.
Sure.
Hold it for that half a second, that second longer than maybe he wants to.
Yes.
To then lay it off to a Gazdag, lay it off to a Leon Flach, and then they get it back at you at the back post, something like that.
Yes, I definitely agree. And that's where LAFC is going to have to cover. I know, we've been doing a good job on that, certainly, on counterattack defense, but that is going to be a massive issue for LAFC tomorrow. If they're going to win, well, we can talk about that in a second. If they're going to have to play great counterattacking defense.
Right. Okay. Now is the time for all you guys in the chat. Dave and I will give our keys to winning for LAFC. LAFC wins if, Dave.
If they can combine up front so well that it's almost like they're passing the ball in the back of the net a couple of times. Now, you don't have to do that 5 times. That's not going to happen.
Although,
but I'm talking like beautiful team goals. If they can combine to make beautiful team goals happen, and then you got to finish, because that's the way you beat Blake. Certainly, you keep him off balance that way. And if you can finish your chances that you do get, don't give him opportunities where he doesn't have to make a save even, then LAFC will win. There's no question about it.
Yeah, Andre Blake is a great shot stopper, but the goal is large.
You can't
and there's
shot.
ways you can
can't
move the
stop
ball
everything. Yeah.
into which he cannot really play a factor into it. It's kind of like what we saw a little bit with Stuver in the Austin game. They were finding chances where Stuver was able to, if he didn't cheat, stayed at that near post, he was going to make a save.
Yes.
But find ways to get. There's areas that, like to Dave's point, those kind of crossing areas where they're not the long crosses. And Jordy Harvey pointed this out to Max and I yesterday. He's like, we were playing a lot of early crosses against Austin. I don't want to see that. I want the crosses that are on the floor and they're to somebody's feet. You're playing those type of crosses, you're probably passing in.
I think it's more effective against the Union, especially too, because they're a lot bigger than Austin.
How tall is Glesnes and Elliott? They're both 6'6"?
6'5", 6'6" each, and really can move. It's not. They're not statues at that height either. So there's a reason they were both up for MLS Defender of the Year, and one of them won it. So full credit to them. But they can be beat on the ground, no question about it. And that's how LAFC, I think, is going to have to do it, offensively. And the good thing is, LAFC is not a team that only has that one trick in their bag, as you talked about, Vince. They've won games in different styles, different ways, different reasons, different people. And that's what's going to have to happen tomorrow to beat a team like Philadelphia. It's just a great matchup, no question about that. But LAFC, Vince, is the best team in MLS. And if they win tomorrow, they're the best team I've ever seen in MLS. And that goes back to 2019 LAFC. Who was the best team I've ever seen.
God, I would love to see if it was possible, this team versus that 2019 team. My LAFC will win if they have the type of reactions to turnovers that's both their own and the other teams that they had in the Austin game. I thought of all the things that we could talk about, the best thing was their ability to react. And like every time there was a loose ball, there was 2-3 guys in and around the ball.
Just that little foot even. How many times did we see Kellen Acosta, Ilya Sanchez, and Jose Cifuentes just get that toe on something and still control it?
Yeah.
So it was just, Austin were inches away at times, but again, in the midfield. So it wasn't as though, they really didn't get much going forward, but it was just that extra little effort in the playoffs. It's not a cliche. You've got to do that. And if they do that against Philadelphia, you're right. It's going to be a success.
And I'm glad that you name-checked those 3 guys because, man, they were everywhere.
They were.
Kellen Costa normally lines up on the left. I saw him all the way over to the right. I saw him filling in at fullback for Cheeky at times. I mean, he was everywhere. He knew the assignment, knew the moment, knew that there was no chance they weren't going to be in this final if he plays that way. So let's move on to we're going to wrap it up here. We're going to do it with our predictions.
Oh, boy.
I hate these. I got the Galaxy one right, Austin way wrong. I don't know how you've been with your predictions. You always make them, but you maybe don't say them out loud.
It's difficult when you're broadcasting a game. Now, look, I'm the broadcaster for LAFC.
You get to do this. If you were doing this for national media, you would not
you wouldn't do
this.
it for national. But come on, I mean, who are we kidding? I know who I broadcast to, right? It's the black and gold. But I genuinely think the home field makes the difference, and I think it's 2-1, where frankly, I think LAFC will kind of dominate that 2-1 in a way. You know, there's different kind of score lines,
Right,
as
of
we
course.
know. And
Yeah, there's 1-0s where
you.
you don't deserve to get
No,
1-0.
exactly. Or there's 3-1s where you didn't
Yeah.
play that well. But I think it's going to be a good performance. I really do. And certainly Philadelphia is such a tough team that you can't take anything lightly, and it's going to be that close. But LAFC is going to win this game.
That's what I want for you. I want a good game call. So
Oh.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to one-up it because I want one more Dave Denholm LAFC goal call. I'm going 3-1.
Fine by me, brother. The pipes are ready.
Yes.
I'm ready to go.
He's ready to
yeah,
go.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, this has been great. This has been awesome. I mean, I hope that we get to do this every year, but there's no saying that you'll be back here. So I'm so glad that we were able to bring you guys a podcast every day this week leading up to MLS Cup Final. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to thank Dave Denholm,
Thank you.
the radio voice of LAFC, for joining me for this last one, and how fitting it is before his first MLS Cup Final call. Dave, do you feel like you're properly ready now?
Yes, I do. I got to go do some more studying. You can always add some more to the broadcast, but I think I'm ready to go now, finally.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for us. This is Inside LAFC, the Max and Vince podcast. Remember to subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. I want to thank Connor Klopsis from 110 Football, Josh Gross from the LA Daily News, obviously Big John McCarthy, backup goalkeeper for LAFC, and we hope we get to celebrate with him Saturday after this. Thank you again, Dave. Thank you to everybody in the chat. I hope you guys had fun. This will come out as a podcast too, so if you didn't get to catch the live, I'll go ahead and put it out there so you can listen to it in the car as you make your way to MLS Cup Final tomorrow. It's going to be a 1:05 kickoff, but get here early. As we've said, no parking. So make sure you get here early, and if you can't, that's the man to listen to. Where will you be?
Noon at 710 ESPN and the ESPN LA app with the pregame. Mark Rogandino will join you at noon, and then kick off a little after 1.
All right, you have your assignment. If you can't be here to celebrate with us in person, listen to the man, Dave Denholm. Thanks again. Inside LAFC, the Max and Vince podcast. We'll catch you after the final.
Oh, yes! They knocked on the door.